Hello. Okay. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Now everything should be good. So I'm gonna do a reintroduction because I was kind of just talking to myself real quick. But this is another question of the day. What is perspective? Um, we got a special guest. Destiny is here. I'm sure you heard her talk a little bit, but um, that was a little bit far fetched. I thought that was perfect. I'm not sure why it didn't come through. Either way, today we're diving straight into the question that's right above me. This is the question that we talk about a little bit off the stream, so I thought it would be good for us to come on stream and talk about it. Um, First, I like to get definitions, so I don't know if you have a definition ready or if I should just give you mine and see if you like agree or disagree with any parts of it. But
Um, you can go ahead.
yeah, so I pretty much see perspective as like the lens that we see everything through, hear everything through. Anything that we observe, we have to do it through the perspective. Um, Basically, whatever you use to observe, that's your perspective, and your senses are all just a piece of it. It's kind of hard for me to pick like a single definition, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit stuffy today, but that's like my broad definition of like what a perspective is.
I think it'd be good for us to like search up the actual definition
Yeah, I usually do that
and then say
towards
what
the end,
that
but we
is.
can do that now. Let's see what Oxford has to
I
say, because I usually just do it somewhere randomly throughout.
okay. I would say I agree with yours.
I feel that.
Um, I think that our perspective is just like the way we like individually kind of just observe. Yeah. Like I second that. Granted that our perspectives I feel like are just shaped by the world around us at the same time. And as we get older with like more experiences, more conversations, or whatever that we go through, kind of like just shapes that.
I feel you,
And so it's
100%.
just it's individual. Like
I feel you. I agree with that like
yeah,
tenfold. Like it morphing as we go through life. I think that that's like a necessary component of what a perspective is, because it changes
yeah,
like continually. So I'm with that.
just the way we
So
see the world.
according to Oxford, it's saying perspective is defined as a particular attitude towards something or a way of thinking about a subject, often synonymous with a viewpoint. So effectively, it kind of leaves out like a larger perspective. It just kind of places your perspective on this one subject. But I don't know. I guess that's kind of where I stray away. But I mean, it's a good definition. I just think you can have a perspective over nothing. Like, can you have a perspective over nothing, or do you have to actually have something you're like observing to have a perspective? And I guess that's fair.
I don't think you can have a perspective over nothing because for anything, for you to exist at all is to see, is to be
Exactly.
conscious about it. And so like that's kind of like asking if zero is something. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and that's actually a funny subject. That wasn't even a concept. Like they had to invent zero, and I think that was like after Roman times or something like that. Like up until then, they just
I
didn't
don't know.
have a way to think about zero. I might be getting the dates wrong or who actually came up with it, but yeah. What were you gonna say?
That's interesting. I wonder how they described nothingness beforehand.
I think that they literally just didn't have the concept for it, like up until a certain point. But I could be wrong about that. But I think you're
Um,
right. Like, I think you need the ability to, what's that word? Like, just like even if you're not describing something, like, and you're just going about the world, you still have that like empty perspective, like about whatever you're about to see. If you were presented with nothing, you would still be yourself, and like that identity would have a perspective regardless of what you were looking at. So I hear you out on that. I think I agree.
I feel like that's true as long as you have experienced something before. Like imagine you're a baby and you're presented with nothing. There's absolutely no like
I
you're
don't
just
know.
kind of there's no thoughts, head empty.
Because I think part of your perspective is made up like a lot by your DNA, right? So if you got like 10 babies from 10 different parents or 10 different sets of parents, I guess, and put like
Okay,
something in front of
Epstein. I'm
them,
just kidding.
say that again. You
I
said,
said okay, Epstein.
oh my
I'm
goodness,
just
fuck that. hate that man so much.
Okay. No, for real. Okay. What was your example though?
But like if you got like 10 different babies and put them in front of like a green ball or a red ball, half of them would choose red, half of them would choose green, right? Like we're not sure why they would choose those or if it's just like a statistical thing, but for some reason it seems like they wouldn't all choose the green ball. Like they all have a different perspective, you know what I mean? So even if you're like taking that like from when you basically have the limited like the most limited amount of things to morph your perspective, I still think that you would still does that make sense? You would still have that identity, it just wouldn't be super morphed yet. Like
Question.
yeah.
Is this like an actual study where like half of them would choose one and
This
half of them
is
would choose the other?
this is just a thought experiment and obviously there's no
Okay.
evidence for it, but this is what I genuinely believe. Like even if it was just like a girl toy and a boy toy, eventually you would see like they have their own perspective and they are getting to choose what they are more interested in, even at that like
Yeah.
very infantile age. And that just goes to show like I don't think that the perspective is born at any one point in time. Like I think that it starts even before you're even in the womb. I'm a Christian, so I say like you have a soul before it's actually put into the physical body, and I think that soul is already interested in different things, like made interested in different things.
I would agree to some extent. Um, but I see your point with the choosing this color ball or that color ball because then like before anything like your physical experience has not been shaped by
Yeah,
associations with colors or really anything.
I feel you. Well, that's the way I see it. Um, I know that there's probably a counter opinion out there. That's just what makes the most sense to me. But what was I gonna say? So we also have like a an ongoing debate about whether or not you'd be able to fully understand someone else's perspective.
Uh,
And I don't want to bring too much into it, but I think I've actually started to lean towards your side a little bit more. Like there's always gonna be like in this debate, I've always used to say like you can fully like understand somebody. It just takes a lot of time and like maybe even technology depending on what you're actually talking about. But I do agree with what you're saying. Like there are instances where you just might not be able to fully understand what someone else is saying up until the point where you're living through their body and seeing it through their eyes. But even then,
mhm.
there might still be a gap in understanding, if that makes any sense. But I
I feel
do.
like the only
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, you're
I
good.
feel like the only reason there would be a gap in that understanding would be because you still have your perspective along
Hmm.
with living their perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think you're right. I usually I don't succeed to arguments very quickly because I always say like if you just had the right technology and you just like had like a VR thing where you just like captured I don't know like, you know how people have like your life flashes before your eyes before you die kind of thing.
yeah.
I imagined like what if you could do that before someone's like entire life and then get like a download like this would be like well off into the future sorry and
Hmm.
basically just put someone's entire life into a VR experience and you just raise the time scale so you could experience what an entire person's life was like from beginning to end with your own perspective attached to it. Obviously I think that would be like crazy and scientific jumps, but I still see it like with the future that we have as it continues to grow, I think something like that is possible. But even in that situation, you would still be watching it from your perspective. Like you would need to be able to hear that person's like conscious thoughts above your own without having your own at all, or else it just wouldn't really work. I think for
Yeah.
as long as we're on Earth, we're not gonna be able to have that full experience. Even if we do, there's gonna be flaws and stuff like that. So I do agree with you
I feel
on
like,
like the gap between perspectives.
mhm. I feel like that's why it's so important to share yours and to just be like expressive, to like I like to say like quote unquote dance and sing, but really like when I say that I mean like pure expression, like be genuine in the way that you see things and be loud about it in the way that you think.
Hmm.
And I say this again and again. Just like I imagine us as a bunch of little flowers, because it's a natural thing to feel the things that you do and
Mm,
to see the way that you do because it's a natural progression of the way that everything has happened before you. Like it's influenced, and we tend to think about it as like, this is me, this is who I am. Um, but it's literally just like a culmination of everything from before you, whether it's like
yeah,
before your life or like the lived life. Um,
I can
it's
agree with you.
important.
When you say like
Mhm.
little flowers, would you say like we're all like unique? What are they called? Like we have species for animals, but what is it for like plants? Would you say we're all like unique types, or do you think that we all have like a match out there that's so much like us, we might as well be the same breed kind of thing?
Can you rephrase that question? What do you mean?
So you know how like with birds, for example, there's like thousands of species of different birds. Like we have pigeons, we have crows, we have like subsets of pigeons, subsets of crows, we have doves, all
Yeah.
types of stuff. I know you said you see us like flowers. Would you say that you see us like different species for like, does that make sense? Or are we all just kind
Yeah.
of coming from the same?
I think as humans, we like to define a lot of things. And then, with science, we observe and then we're like, oh, this is different. That's different. This is different. That's different. And
Mm,
then put like the definition over it, which is, a way of communicating and understanding different things. I would say that we're all like similar to the extent that we're humans. We're all born babies. And we're influenced by the environments around us and like the way we're raised. But in the same sense, like going back to the idea of perspective, like it shapes you and it's like different in the same way that a flower, say one of them gets a lot more water in this area, as opposed to like a flower being sat in the shade and like a drought,
mm,
it's going to impact them differently. And the expression of the flower, aka like the way it looks, the way the colors or things like that are going to be different.
I hear you.
And the way it dances and sings is going to be different.
That makes sense to me. And I think for me it makes more sense just to say plants. Like there are gonna be like people who are more like flowers. There's gonna be people who are more like cacti. You know what I mean? There's gonna be people who are like trees. There are gonna be like all types of people. And the best way I like understand what you're saying is like everybody has a seed that they came from, and that seed just lands on the ground, and the ground is like the present, and like we're all just amongst ourselves, and like we have different looks to us, and we have different like ways of being. For example, all of us are effectively here just reproducing more people. um, Not just like literally, but we're having an effect on one another just by being in the same area. So some of us are like
Yeah.
mango trees, some of us are like apple trees. But we aren't producing the same fruits. We're all just very unique, and I do like that perspective. Um, Dang, there was something
I
I
don't-
wanted to ask, but I kind of forgot already.
I want to add on to that. I'd argue that we impact people like on the other side of the world just by existing.
Oh, I agree,
Um,
100%.
yeah. Um, just to expand on that, even though you agree, just like you think about COVID,
Mm,
and how like it started in one place and then it basically spread all around the world. Um, your words right now, they're physical to some, well, technically not because you can't like grab them, but they're energetic
yeah,
and like your perspective in the same way that the environment influences you, you influence the environment.
yeah,
And that's why I say it's so important to dance and sing because it's a natural expression of everything. And I feel like the idea that you have to be this way and that way to be accepted into society is just like a conditioning. And um, not to get too off topic, but I feel like that conditioning is just uh, like trying to get. I think it has to do with like workers and capitalism.
no,
I'm
for
not gonna
sure.
lie.
There's nothing
Um,
wrong with. We're not going off topic. All of this is within the realm of perspective. Like if that's kind of
okay.
why I make the simple questions like that. But I agree with what you're saying 100%. Like your conditioning
Yeah.
is a part of your perspective. It becomes who we are to some extent, and that's why I agree with you. It is very important to be self-expressive, And I would even actually say like your words are a physical thing, even though they're not tangible, like you can't reach out and touch them. They do exist in this like physical reality. Like every time I say a word, if there's someone listening, it hits their ears and that has like a physical reaction from the ear to the brain, and that's what communication really is. So I would agree with you. And I think that when you said like we all affect each other, like even across the world, I think that can be expanded on a little bit. Like I think in a way of vibrations sometimes, like there's good vibrations and there's negative vibrations. You can either raise the vibe or you can bring it down, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
everybody is like very connected. It's almost like a web. Like imagine, I think they talk about the DMT realm and how everybody has like
Mhm.
their own consciousness, right? And as the world grows like further in time, every choice you make, like I just did a voice memo not too long ago and I was kind of talking to myself. But every just like decision that you make, it leads you to either helping that big web grow better and stronger, or every choice you make can be the opposite. And that's why I think our choices are so like important. Like I think a lot of
Can I
people,
argue
yeah, I think
just a little bit?
I hear you. I think a lot of people go through life and they're just kind of like, oh, it doesn't matter what I do, who's gonna care in 100 years, kind of thing. But I think
Yeah.
that those ways of thinking really limit us. Like they limit us more than we think, and I've gotten away from most of that. But I think a lot of us have like nihilistic takes or nihilistic perspectives on the world, and we don't even really understand what that means for the future. Um,
Y-
I'm gonna say,
You,
go ahead, go ahead.
sorry.
No, you're good.
You said something, you said like bringing the vibrations down could be like a bad thing, but I feel like whenever I say to dance and sing, I think even the expression of all of those negative things are so important because it teaches us. It teaches us something is wrong. Like, what are we doing wrong? Like, you see, like a lot of people right now are really depressed,
Mm,
anxious, like all of these like things coming about. It could just be more people are realizing like, oh, maybe I should get diagnosed, or just more people getting diagnosed and then seeing the result of that. But again, it's like even those negative expressions are so important to be expressed because it is something that is true.
yeah,
Um, that's why I say like no feeling is invalid, even if it's like for this reason or that reason, or like it doesn't make sense, but it's a natural expression. There's a reason that it happens. Like nothing happens for no reason. It's
I agree with
impact and
that.
influence by this or that. So
I agree with that to a
yeah.
certain extent. Like, because there are some expressions that are just untruthful, right? Like just negative and like the way that you just defined it right there. You were saying like even negative expressions are like valuable and they raise the vibration as well. I believe
Well, I
that's
wouldn't say
also
that
true,
raise the vibration, but
but
it's
they're
can.
necessary.
Like the potential is there.
Like depressive episodes, anxious episodes, like periods in time where we're just not feeling so great. I think that it's important to get those out as well. Like if we just bottle them up
Yeah.
and don't really do anything about that and we suppress those negative feelings or emotions, I think that it leads us like away from like ultimately truth. Like truth is a positive quality. And so if we're hiding that from ourselves, this is something that I struggle with. Not from ourselves but from also other people. It just like blows up and people don't really know what to do. And so that's like I don't know, just manifesting a negative reality. But obviously, there's like different ways of handling things, and every situation is a little bit different. But as long as you have one of those core values with you, like whether it be truth, whether it be love, whether it be like hope or faith, like I think that regardless, a natural expression is a good thing. But there are like, I think it's like kind of a vague way to define it, like whether it's natural, whether it's negative or positive. But there are a ton of like homes where they have what I would call air quotes natural expressions and they are like violent households.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that it's natural because they grew up that way and they either watched it from their parents and it bled down onto them, and they don't know a better way to live, and that seems like
Yeah.
natural to them, but it's obviously a very like unnatural or negative a thing that happens. But I don't know. I think it's it's really just maintaining consciousness about things. Like if you can't be conscious about your actions, then you're gonna like lead us all down a little bit more. Um, I don't know. I guess that's the best way I can kind of like separate the two sides.
This is true. Um, I think like even in those negative toxic households, it's like you have kids that are like, "Oh my goodness, why am I feeling this way?" But then they're taught it's not okay to feel this way.
Mhm.
And it takes like getting out of the environment and seeing a different like thing or perspective, so to speak, to realize like, hey, this is not what I want. Then again, like it's not healthy to have like a household that thinks this negative environment is natural
Mhm.
or okay, really, I should say, because it's natural to the extent that like this is the expression of this person and it impacts the people around them.
Mhm.
But it's like it teaches you and it takes somebody realizing that this is not what they want and then realizing that they have the ability to change it or to change the expression or like whatever ideals they adopted and said like this is who I am or like defined, I guess. And then um I feel like it comes down to ego to some extent. Sorry if that doesn't make sense.
That's okay. We're at
I
the
feel
root
like
of the issue. We're just like
okay.
diving. But
I feel like it comes down to people like adopting the ideals of their environments, and if it's quote unquote negative to the other environments they're in, it's like they tend to sit there and defend it sometimes because this is ego. Like if you identify with this um, negative thing and then go to another environment where it's being argued against, you're going to defend it because to some extent, like you're defending your ego. This is like who you are,
yeah.
quote unquote, because it's what you've chosen to identify as. And it takes like literally just like sitting down and trying to like see outside of that, like putting yourself in other people's shoes, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
seeing a different perspective in order to understand and learn from it. And that's why, again, like I feel like it's so important to dance and sing, like just to be expressive, because people learn from it, whether it's negative or positive. And yeah.
Yeah. I think the way that I kind of understand it, and this is I'm gonna break something down a little bit. Like everything good comes from God, and everything not so great comes from the enemy. And so in the middle, it can get kind of gray, and it can be difficult to tell. Like, okay, is this something that's good, or is this something from bad? And I'm gonna do like a small separation for people who might be atheists or agnostic. There's
Mhm.
also like the character of benevolence is the way that I like to put it, and then there's the character of malice. And the character of benevolence is basically God, and every good quality you can put onto it, like mercy, love, hope, faith, justice, everything. It's all just a characteristic of that one being, and everything not so great, from hate to injustice to mercilessness, like restlessness, like the inability to rest, like all of these things are of the enemy, of malice. And so these two forces are like continually at war with one another, and one is trying to help the other one is not so much trying to get help and things like that, and it just brings pain. So I think that you're hitting the nail on the head when you say like all of these expressions need to be expressed. Like if we just let them rot inside of ourselves, we just kind of lose ourselves to silence. But I think that like truth is a positive quality in almost every situation, if not every situation. And I think that lies and like secrets and things like that, they bring us down. Um, so in that, even our like in those childhood situations, I think it's important that that kid gets to the right like the right adult to talk about their experience. They're like, hey, this happens in my household. I don't really know what to say about it, but I don't like how it makes me feel. Like if that's all they know how to say, that's all that's all they have to say. And then hopefully that trusted adult can come into the situation and change the situation for them that way, or like give them a safe space to be when those things occur. Um,
Given that the adult has gotten through those perspectives and through those experiences
exactly.
and learned from it, you know? Yeah.
Like I think
Um,
I'm not gonna use
yeah.
like a real example, but the best example I can come up with is like an abusive household where like the mom and dad don't get along and the kid just has to hear them yelling and stuff like that, it's like the kid starts to say like, is this my fault? Am I the reason why my parents aren't having a healthy relationship and stuff like that? But eventually that like that negative energy that is caught gets caught in the household, it has to go somewhere, and it usually attacks like everyone in the household differently. And so if that kid had like a grandmother or a grandfather that he could talk to or she could talk to, that would give them like the sense of like, okay, this person understands way better than I do. Like I usually say like respect your elders is a really good just wise thing to do in general. Obviously they're not gonna know everything, especially like there's a lot of new age like modern, I'm not gonna say diagnoses only, but like things of that nature that they don't fully understand, but they've been through it to some extent and they understand like how like society works and how social cues work and things like that. So I think it's always important to bring the situation outside of the situation in a way that's like healthy and good. That's just one example. But
Yeah. I think whether it's an elder or like whoever, I think different perspectives are definitely going to be helpful.
mhm,
Um, I know how like the Bible says like respect your elders and this and that,
mhm.
but I just think respect is important all the way around.
Oh, for sure.
Granted, of course, older people are gonna have like more experiences and have gone through more things and have survived and like they have something to give. Um, yeah, but it, that's given that these elders have like overcome these experiences and are not still living in patterns that are unhealthy or like in ideas that are like kind of just like continuously putting like bringing the vibration low, I guess, or
Yeah.
just that perspective of like it's difficult to go to an elder that has not learned anything from their
Yeah.
life experience.
I hear
Yeah.
you. That's 100% the
At least-
truth.
Yeah.
I think respect is like a lot of people say you should have to earn your respect, and I very much disagree with that. In my perspective, at least, it's like respect should be something that you offer off the bat, and then it should increase and decrease based on your relationship with that person. If we start off disrespecting people or just not having respect for people, one of the two, however you wanna welcome to the chat. We got one person in here today. But
Hey.
we're talking a little bit about respect at the moment. If you don't give that respect off the bat, you're just setting yourself up for a bad relationship. Like it's just not gonna end well.
I that's I think I mentioned this with you on a phone call the other day. I'm not sure if it was
Maybe
you.
we might have.
Um, it's like imagine there's like a box, like a room
Mhm.
that's a box and there's nothing else in the room and you have like two dogs. Um, and one of them is automatically barking and just like being really aggressive to the other one. The other one's gonna have no choice but to like also do the same thing in defense.
Mhm.
Um, like you can't have like a peaceful relationship with someone that you're automatically not respecting and then you have to like earn the respect. It's like what is it? It's like saying like I don't respect you as a person or how do I even put this?
But no, that makes sense.
I feel like respect is simple understanding that we're both just human and we're just here existing and you like to sit there and earn it, it feels like this egotistical thing. It
Yeah.
feels like you only get this thumbs up from me if you do this and this and it's just that projection of of like trying to earn something in order for things to be okay when ultimately we're all just these little flowers and you don't have to earn anything, everything is already just here, and if you're not sitting here trying to like continue to keep the peace or create the peace, like it's just
No, I
fucking
agree.
things up, I guess.
I hear you 100%. I think it's like when it comes to respect, it I'm trying to link it back to perspective a little bit, but if
Yeah.
you if you have like you said, not off the bat, like you're already not respecting people, it's just exactly like you said. That other person has to go into like a defense mode almost, and the relationship just doesn't have nearly as much room to grow. It is very egotistical in my opinion. I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but it's like I don't know. I think to the person in the chat just got an ad, so they'll be here soon. What was I gonna
It'd be
say?
like that.
It really do. Um, what was I gonna say? But I don't know. Like respect is such a like like integral part of good relationships. Um, but we did kind of stray a little bit away from the subject. I
I
think.
think
Go ahead.
I think to some extent, respect comes from understanding. It's like,
Mm,
okay, you're in this position, you're from this perspective. I maybe from my perspective, I don't fully understand it, but I understand that you're coming from somewhere else. And the respect is needed to understand. To, right, how do I even put this? It's like I understand that you're different from me, but you can't really sit there and understand somebody else if you're not willing to like grow that conversation. I really don't know how to put into words what I'm trying to say right now.
no, it makes
I'm
sense.
not gonna lie.
I think respect does come from understanding, and that's why it's a lot easier for people who like respect off the bat to have easier like connections. I think empathy is a really big part of perspective and like relationships. So if you don't have the enough empathy to give respect off the bat, then your relationships in general are all going to be very damaged. Like I'm thinking about two types of people, right? The first type of person has a regular, well, I'm not going to say regular because it's different from person to person. Person A has the ability to respect off the bat and they have empathy. Person B does not have the ability to give respect off the bat. They have to like make sure that that person earns it and they don't have as much empathy. And so if person A and person B get into a conversation, it is going to seem like very one-sided and one person's going to be almost attacking to see like whether or not this person is even worth being in a relationship with. And it might be that they both come to the same conclusion that they're actually two different types of people and they just aren't meant to be kind of thing. But those two
I think it
perspectives
comes from
alone.
like a
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, you're
I think
good.
it comes from like a survival thing.
Mhm.
Like 100% obviously comes from their environment, however they were raised, however they've adopted the ideals around them.
Mhm.
But I think it just comes out of survival to some extent, because it's just like, why would I immediately need to like vet you out to even be around you? Granted, like you really never know like how a person is before you sit there and get to know them.
Mhm.
But like you can't really sit down and get to know somebody if you don't sit down and respect them, you know what I mean?
I
And so it's
100%
just
agree.
this like weird cycle of just like being on edge all the time about everybody and then just like having like if someone has to sit there and earn your respect, 100% just the ego thing. Like it
Mhm.
feels like a survival thing, like where you're just not in an environment where you could sit down and hear people out. Like you have to like do something to earn it. It's not
I hear you.
it's
I think
weird.
I think that's why it's so important to have an open-minded perspective. Like at this point, I'm just thinking of a bunch of different positive and negative ways to think about things because now I'm thinking about person A and person B. Like if you're
Mhm.
very close-minded or you don't like give things the benefit of the doubt at all, your perspective is so limited in comparison to what it could be. I think the wider you allow your perspective to be, the more opportunities come your way, the more things like I don't know. Obviously there's an extreme to both ends. Like if you're so open-minded that you're like naive or gullible, you can fall for a lot of tricks and things like that. But even
Yeah.
then, you have the ability to like learn from those tricks and not fall for the same thing twice kind of thing. And
Yeah. I,
I don't know.
I think it also comes with like trying to set boundaries. Like of
Mhm.
course you'll respect somebody. Like um of if person A is sitting there respecting everybody, like obviously you're gonna come across people who are like not respectful or just like full of malice or
Mhm.
whatever they're going through. And I think it just takes setting boundaries to like get out of that. Like obviously you're not gonna want to sit there and like have full respect and want to continue a relationship with somebody that's a detriment to you.
Mhm.
Um,
And I can agree
yeah.
with that 100%. I think I struggle with setting boundaries to be honest with you. So, I do agree with
Practice.
that.
It's a practice.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I struggle with it sometimes.
I used to believe like you shouldn't cut anybody off because they should always have like a chance to come back. But I learned the hard way that that's just not the truth. Like
Mhm.
there are just some people that don't mix well, if that makes any sense. Like I think I was like to the extreme of the open-mindedness. Like I would give people chance after chance, and it's just not exactly beneficial. Not even to yourself, but to the other person too. Like if they think that they can just come to you at any point in time, and you're just like a doormat, they're gonna like wipe their feet over you every single time, and then come straight in. Um, so at some point you have
Yeah.
to teach them that hard lesson. Like even though I've been very good to you, I am no longer going to be this for you, and I apologize. Goodbye, kind of thing. But like,
Yeah.
it actually took some growing up for me to get to that point. But obviously there are different perspectives on that as well. Um, I think that's just like a uniform, decent way to think about it, though.
I do have a friend that refuses to block anybody, that thinks it's like immature to do that. And I honestly do not understand that because it's like, okay, if somebody's sitting there continuously like walking over you and you just sit there and not respond to it, even if they're continuing to do that, it doesn't make it stop. It
Yeah,
doesn't it doesn't like it doesn't teach them anything. I feel like that's why like expression is so important, even if it's kind of a negative one, because it's like, hey, um, this is what you're doing. I feel this way. This is not okay. There's no need to continue to let them in your life. I think even like blocking somebody or saying like this is how you're affecting me is going to teach them, even if it's like a negative thing. And if
right.
they choose not to like learn from it, it's just going to be a continuous cycle that they're inevitably just going to have to go through again until they sit there and realize how they're impacting the people in the world around them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think for me, like, I used to think the same thing. Like, you should always leave the door open just in case that person like really needs someone, kind of thing. But like, if they are coming to the one person that like that has blocked them, I think that's a sign of the character, kind of thing. Like, you should have other people in your life you can go to other than someone that you persistently bother. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess I go back and forth on that. I personally just don't like blocking people. I like to just say like I'm ending this. Like stay away from me. If you need me, that's fine, but like understand. Like the only I've only ever really cut off two people. Um and this is like fairly recently in my life. Like I'm learning now not to be that doormat. So there's that perspective. But I'm trying to think of like the alternate perspective, someone who just blocks people off. Like I guess what I'm doing, I'm playing devil's
I
advocate
would
just a
say I'm
little
like
bit.
that. I would say I'm the type of person to like, okay, if you did this, like you made this promise and then you didn't go through with it, and then you're continuously doing that, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna cut you off because ultimately, like, my survival, my happiness never relied on this person.
Yeah,
Obviously, I care about them and I love them, which is why I'm blocking them because, like, I could love you from a distance. Maybe it's not gonna be verbal, maybe it's just mental at that point because it's like, I don't need them in my life in order to survive or be happy. And
right.
it's not my job to teach them what they're doing is wrong. And so I will walk out of the love I have for myself and the love I have for them and not continue like this cycle of whatever is going on.
I hear you.
Um, Granted, obviously, I would love to keep the door open. Maybe not, obviously, I don't know. I would love to keep the door open for people if they need help, but like it's just going to come at a detriment to me. There's other people in the world. There's so many people in the world that you could go make friends with and like develop relationships with and like maybe even rely on like emotionally or whatever the case is. But it really takes like somebody sitting down with themselves and learning what they're doing might be wrong
Yeah,
or might be like a negative thing and just like changing those things. But you really can't sit down and tell somebody like, hey, you're doing this wrong thing, and they understand. Like it takes them like having that reflection. Like they could say okay to this or that makes sense to that, but it really takes like somebody self-reflecting and then changing things for themselves. Like you really can't go and help somebody who's not willing to have reflection or help themselves. And it sucks sometimes because like we love people, and ultimately the reason why we end up like uh like blocking them or going through issues with them is out of that love. It's like, oh, I care. And there's this thing that's happening, and so I'm gonna tell you about it, or whatever the case is. I think ultimately all of it just comes like out of love because you
Yeah,
care, and that's why things hurt.
I can agree with that to some extent. I think that like there's definitely like a healthy range of like blocking people. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's someone who I mean I don't know. I don't know how it works on the other side of the spectrum. Like for me, I'm like pushing away from one extreme, and it seems like you're like safe on your side, on the other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that there's like people who like block everybody, like as soon as things get problematic, and that kind of leaves relationships like not so much. Hold on, give me 1 second. Someone in the chat wrote something. They said, "I'm currently in a position where my feelings genuinely became too strong, and I had to cut someone off, which took too long because I lack self-respect. I was often told by that person to seek out therapy, and now I'm in a critical spot where I have like two friends and I don't respect myself." See, that's a good. That's I don't know. That's a good example. Um,
I would say that I genuinely went through that recently. Um, I think that practice of self-love is 100% a practice. It's difficult whenever you care about people so much and like you love people so hard to like sit there and also think about yourself in that situation. But it's also hard to build a life where you're happy and at peace whenever the things you're building around you are not exactly what you want. And it's just continuously like giving grace to somebody or continuously like letting someone in who's like not necessarily good for you. Um,
and I
it
think
really is a practice.
yeah.
So what's up?
No, I was gonna say I think I have the same issue. Like when it comes to like getting rid of this person in my life, most recently, I gave them like chance after chance. Like my boundaries were like slowly being degraded, even though I was trying to pick
Mm,
them up and stuff like that. So I understand what that is like, probably a little bit more than I'm willing to admit. But I think it's good to have like healthy friends. Like they said, they only have like two friends really, and I struggle with the word friend. Like I go back and forth, and I'm like, is this person my friend? Is this person just an acquaintance that I'm cool with? Like regardless if that person is there for you in the times that you need them, I think that that's a good friend. Um, and I think that like we can be that for a lot of people, and that's why it's so hard to hit that block button or get rid of people in the life. So I don't know. I think that's just like part of the issue. I think everyone wants to give as many chances as possible, and some people, when I say everyone, obviously that's not the case. I was gonna say some people want to give as many chances as possible, and other people just try and take as many chances as they humanly can to try and keep someone in their life. But when it comes to the self-respect and self-love, I do think that that's like such a big component on having a healthy perspective. Um, it's like it's not that you don't respect yourself; it's that you're struggling to in that moment, right? So
yeah.
they're saying it happened before, and I persistently get emotional, like way too deep into relationships. I end up destroying myself in a certain way. It always starts off feeling great, but and I end up with feelings that tell me I cannot keep this up in a relationship, and then I cry myself out to those two friends. Oh, that's okay. I think that we can all get very emotional. Like I struggle when it
Yeah.
comes to understanding my emotions, and this is like another lens of perspective. Like there is the emotional person who is very emotional, then there's the person who's more logically minded, and they kind of lean the other way. I've been on both sides of the spectrum at very different times, so I understand what it's like being like so emotional that you can't even really explain what's going on, and your body just has to like let it out in different ways. But I don't think crying is like a sign of weakness. I think if anything, it's a sign that you've been strong
Not at
for a
all.
really long time. And I don't think we would have tear ducts if we weren't meant to cry. So please don't be hard on yourself. I think that that's like something that you're learning, right? Like right now you're processing through a relationship and how emotional you can get and like how you can get really deep into it. Like I'll just go ahead and say it, right? Like I was just in a relationship that lasted like a month and it felt like a year inside of a month's time and I thought like, "Oh my God, maybe this is the one" kind of thing. So I get what it's like falling head over heels for somebody and like I don't know if it's like a romantic relationship that you're talking about, or if it was just like a friendship that just kind of went sour. But either way, I think that's part of it. But sorry, I was kind of getting a
It
little bit off topic, but
not I don't think you're off topic. I think it is very difficult to like want to love somebody and then realize they're not good for you. And I think it's a huge step to just even say like, hey, this is not okay. This is not for me.
yeah.
Um, it's a practice of self-love. And so like I genuinely applaud the both of y'all for stepping outside of that. And when I say it's a practice, it's like little things by little things. The same way that you wake up and like brush your teeth, it's a
Mm-hmm.
habit. Like you build that for yourself. Like it's also like uh how do I say? I want to say the words like rewiring your brain,
Mm-hmm.
but it's literally like everything you do will ultimately become a habit as long as you do it enough. And it's okay, like 100%, crying is not a weakness. Like you have to mourn these things. Like you have to let it out. You have to like deal and reconcile with your emotions. It's not easy at all.
No, 100%.
Um, Especially coming from somebody who kind of has that habit. Like whenever I do start talking to somebody and I think they're a really good person, like I fall head over heels so easy.
Yeah.
But I tend at this point, I tend to like pick up like, hey, well, like I'm feeling this way. Obviously it's not the other person's like job to like deal or know, but I'll take note of like how they're making me feel. And if it's like really intense really soon, I'll kind of like distance myself because I have a
Mm-hmm.
habit of like kind of forgetting myself in the back seat and then just prioritizing somebody else.
I feel
And
you.
I think whenever you're in any relationship, you have to like find that balance where you're not forgetting about all your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love outside of this person.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's so easy to get caught up. Um, and so personally, might be off topic right now. I'm just trying to practice
Mm-hmm.
being alone and being so fulfilled. Like the way I've kind of done it is like I'm trying to pour into my friends,
Mm-hmm.
like just love on them and also pour into myself, like do things that make me happy, like art, music, things like that. Like there's so many avenues to take to fulfill yourself in love, and it doesn't have to be like somebody else. And I feel like I'm at that point where I'm learning that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's off topic. I think like healthy emotional regulation in general is a like it's necessary when it comes to just a healthy perspective. Like there are healthy
Yeah,
perspectives and there are unhealthy perspectives. And if you're not able to regulate your emotions or regulate your like social life in general, you're going to slowly fall into those unhealthy perspectives. Like before I mentioned like there's the force of benevolence and then there's the force of malice. I mean that's just the way I understand it for people who are not religious, but the more you lean one way or another, the more like the easier life becomes. Obviously, there's gonna be new challenges and things like that as you like move through life. But regardless,
yeah.
I think it's necessary to like understand where you are and try and make choices to move in one direction or another. But
What I like to tell my friends and what they kind of reiterate back to me is set yourself up for your future self. Like
mm-hmm,
what you're doing today, like even if you're like in a shit state of mind or like you're just not feeling well, like you kind of have to do little things to set your future self up to be at peace, to
mm-hmm,
be okay. And so like if you're kind of like having adverse reactions and things like that, it's not gonna help tomorrow. It's not gonna help like to have that life that you ideally live or like your dreams and things like that. It's difficult to set yourself up if you're not um like loving yourself really. Or like I guess in the same way that if you continuously let somebody step over you and you're the doormat, like you build the environment around you and you have a say in it. And I feel like when you don't exercise your say in it, the
mm-hmm.
world happens to you instead of you happening to it.
Yes, I think
And
that's 100% the case, and I can speak from firsthand experience. Like specifically, um, what was I gonna say? I'm gonna read your chat in just a second. I was gonna say like for me, I know myself to be like almost too good at emotional regulation, and I know that might seem confusing. Like, what does that mean? Like being too good at emotional regulation? Like,
give me some of it. Give me some of it. I'm just kidding. What were you saying?
cause like here's the way that I understand it. Like, I know because I'm somewhat religious that we don't receive more than we can bear. Like, no matter,
Hmm.
that's like always the one of the first things I hear whenever I'm starting to get overwhelmed. And I'm not gonna say I put myself in overwhelming situations. I just think I'm, like you were saying, I'm given these situations and I have to deal with them one way or another. Like, I can either deal with it or the problem's just gonna grow in the background and it's just gonna get worse. And so with the people that are like close in my life, I think it's very easy for them to just use me to some extent and be like, oh, this guy always knows what to do or what to say. That was my experience in high school. And now people are kind of like living their own life. I think that they've gotten their own like emotional regulation tactics and things like that. So I ended up like fairly lonely. And anytime I ended up reaching out, it was like, aren't you the guys with, or it felt like this. It always felt like, aren't you the guy who always has all the answers? You're gonna be fine. Like
Yeah.
the amount of times I've heard like, oh, you're so smart, you're so intelligent, this isn't gonna be a problem for you for long, instead of hearing like some actual proper advice, is like crushing because there's so many instances where I genuinely just don't know what to do, and I reach out, and I feel like they call this intellectualizing in therapy, where it's like you have a feeling or you have an emotion that's negative, and instead of just feeling the negative emotion, you rationalize what the best thing you can do is like immediately. And I think a lot of guys have this issue as like
Hmm.
fixers. Um, Instead of like feeling those emotions, we just go straight to the solution and then just kind of move on. But I don't know. That's how I see it at least. Obviously that's like somewhat unhealthy perspective, but it's more just like I'm telling you now I'm moving towards the healthy perspective and this is where I'm at right now and this is where I want to be kind of thing. So I'm learning how to feel my emotions instead of just like neglecting them. But
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to like rationalize it and go, okay, this is what we do, instead of like feeling it. But ultimately, it's like your feelings are still there. They're still gonna happen, and the next time something similar happens, it's gonna be triggered again.
yeah.
And it's like it was never actually released or dealt with. I think it takes really just making a safe space and like giving yourself permission and the time to do that. It's not easy. I do think that it does, like a lot of guys do tend to intellectualize it a lot more,
Mhm.
and be like, it. I think it comes from a lot of toxic masculinity, kind of being raised to be like, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to feel that. Why are you crying? You gotta like have this identity of being like macho, I guess, and that feelings are not macho, but I feel like feelings are literally a part of the human experience. You cannot get through life without being overwhelmed at some point or another, or being sad, or whatever the case is. Um, like it takes learning how to deal with things like that, and a lot of guys specifically are just not taught to because they're expected not to, and it
Yeah.
takes you having to build that later in life. Um, I guess from whatever environment you come from,
100%.
maybe, yeah,
And I think the spectrum can be like the opposite. Like I'm not gonna say all women or generalize the whole situation, but I think in general, women are a little bit more like empathy minded, and guys are a little bit more logic minded. I'm not saying that
yeah,
women aren't logical. I'm not saying men aren't empathic. I'm just
yeah,
saying, generally speaking, that's the case. Um, but I don't know. I think that that's kind of why the relationship between men and women exists, and we kind of have lived through an isolation period, not just with COVID, but even before COVID, there was like the individualistic mindset that Western America or just like Western philosophy has put on us. Like everyone has to depend on themselves, like believe in yourself, get yourself through these situations, kind of thing, instead of like community, which is I don't know, more helpful.
yeah. I was gonna mention that earlier. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Uh, just that we have such a lack of community
Mhm.
in America, at least so that I can speak from. There's no third party spaces. Like there's no places to
Yes.
just exist with other people without having to do anything
Yep.
or pay for anything. And I think a lot of the way we've been taught to deal with things is alone.
Mhm.
And and then if you want help, you got to pay for a therapist. When really, I feel like a lot of us just building community and being around each other, having shared experiences and sharing our experiences is what will help that. And I think that's why a lot of people are depressed and why it's like it's difficult to navigate through things not having the tools to deal or not having heard somebody else's tools to deal. Um, just in general. Like, you can't learn from other people's experiences if you can't sit there and like hear them. And if there's nowhere to go to like build something like that, then you are having to deal with it alone.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. We've never survived alone as a species. Like, there's never been a time where we're like that's the only way we've grown and developed. That's the only reason we have the systems we have in place today. Like, not only like how do I say this? Like all the buildings we have, all the way the food comes in, the way the water comes in, things like that.
Mhm.
Like it's never happened with just one person.
Exactly.
On a physical level and even on a mental level, an emotional one, like you can't always go through things alone. Like it's not realistic. We need community. We need people who've gone through things and have and can sing and dance, so to speak, to express them. Um, and to like just learn from each other.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
it sucks. It sucks.
I agree. I get that 100%. Like I always say, like two is better than one. Um, like a perspective with two people is gonna be stronger than one person's perspective just by like maths and like nature. And we live in a collective like perspective. Like the only reason why society functions to this day is because it contains all of us. Like
Um,
from like people paying their rent, like there would just be no landlords at that point. Like everyone would just take over their own homes. From the grocery stores like being filled, there are so many different companies that bring their products in and different farmers that bring in the eggs. Like you can't have any of this without all of this. Like if you take any one piece away, it has to get replaced like fairly quickly, or else there's just gonna be like big issues. And there's I don't know.
this is super off topic, but this is kind of like the function of capitalism and how everybody makes their money.
Mhm.
But it's not the only way that we can live and exist. I think that if we really just like built our communities around like like having farms, food, and like getting like working directly for the things that we need in terms of housing, food, clothes, and water,
Mhm.
we would be a lot better off because then we're not outsourcing things. We're not like going somewhere far away to go get the things that we need and then relying on a system to get that for us. Um, I think community would help a lot of things going on right now.
I agree.
Um, then we'd like understand even more opposite perspectives and like have that respect. Um, but it's difficult whenever we're all inside on our phones and kind of just like stuck in one perspective and not like living. And then the way that we're living right now kind of doesn't give us permission to like in terms of money at least to like go outside and go do other things or like go um like to a different place like country state and go experience different things to learn from it. It's hard.
Yeah.
And so I think it takes like really consciously putting yourself in a position to learn somebody else's perspective or to experience another perspective. Um, so to some extent, I can't really blame people who are stuck in that.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it just takes realizing it and trying.
Yeah. And I think that's where like having an open mind comes from, or not comes from, but is like necessary. Like the people who have like the opportunity to think open-mindedly, and this is kind of like not just American ways of thinking, but like like expanding it outwards. Like we have the opportunity to just sit here and have this conversation, and not everyone has the ability to like get this far in their own thinking. That's why I say two perspectives is better than one, and in general, that's just the case. Like in the collective, all of these thoughts have either already been thought already or are like ripe and ready for the taking at like at our beck and call because we can just sit here and talk about it. But it is kind of like up to us to bring these ideas to the people who can't see it this way and even if it's like anti-capitalistic or whatever you want to call it, I think it's like somewhat necessary. This is something I was gonna bring up before, and this is just my perspective. Um, there's really only like two futures that can exist, and there's a spectrum of futures between the two that can exist. So technically, there's an infinite amount, or what seems like an infinite amount to me. There's the future that ends up in like utopia, where we don't have to worry about nearly anything, and then there's the future of like total destruction, where we don't have to worry about anything because there's nothing left to worry about other than like pain and suffering. And every choice that we make brings us like towards one or the other based on whether it's a truthful and good choice or if it's like a malicious choice. Um, and I think that we forget like all of the choices that we make. Like if it's there's either like altruism, which brings us towards like the positive future, and altruism is basically like I'm gonna do the best thing in every situation because I think that that is true, or whatever your reason is. And nihilism is like the exact opposite. It's like I'm gonna do what I want to do, regardless of who it affects, because who's gonna care in 100 years? And
Hmm.
I think that it's very important to like gather as many altruists as possible so that we can continue making this world better and better, and kind of like convince the nihilists like over and over like, hey, you might not remember that, like no one might remember that you did this in 100 years, especially because there's so many people like you. And I don't want to sound like I'm hating on them because they have valid points, but I've been nihilistic in my past, and so I understand it too. Um, I think that sometimes that tiredness that you feel can be fought through, and you can pick better decisions. Like if you just give yourself the extra few seconds to go, okay, maybe
Yeah,
there is a better way.
I think part of it is the fact that a lot of people have forgotten that they could make a difference or have
Yeah,
given up on the idea that they could. Um, and it's really difficult, especially right now in this time, to realize that like, oh wait, we can do something
hmm,
because we are the same ones upholding the system that is kind of like putting us in a shithole right now. Um, but at the same time, like we live relying on things outside of ourselves to survive, and
I hear
I,
you.
I think it's just like remembering that we can do something. And it's hard, and it's easy to really just be like, well, fuck this shit. I can't change it. I'm just one person. You know what I mean?
I hear you, and that's
Uh,
that
That's why
sense
I think.
of go ahead.
I think conversations like this are so important to have.
Oh, for sure. I was gonna say like that sense of powerlessness doesn't come from anywhere. That's like a generated thing that is left inside of people. And so that's why I say it's important for us to have these conversations with the people who feel powerless and say like, "Hey, you know you have like the power of choice and the power of your mind like continually, right? Like you can either take the interpretation that it was given to you as a gift from the higher powers, or you can take it as a gift from like your parents through birth. Like regardless of what your experience is, you have the ability to make a choice right now that will change the future drastically. You might not know what that choice is, but if you give it some thought, I guarantee you there's a way you can better the world. And it's not by saying like I've said this like a million times in my head. Like every time I've ever said just fuck it, whatever. It's never ended well. Like it's never a great choice. It just ends up like it ends up biting me in the ass like almost every time. So every time I even like think about that, I'm like, okay, I know I'm getting to saying like, okay, whatever. What is it that I'm supposed to be learning so I can make a better choice? And that's just like a line of thought, I guess, that I want to just give to people who have that same issue. But
Yeah, I think it's because it's a lot easier to go like fuck it, whatever, than it is to like do something about it, especially when you're overwhelmed, just in general.
yeah, in the moment, I definitely agree with it. But I think the more you do that, the harder your life gets. Um, I don't really know how to explain
Yeah,
that, but the more
I
you
think
just
it's
go
because you give
whatever.
up the power that you have to
Mhm.
do something, to trade it in for like convenience or just letting things happen to you. Because I feel like whenever you or letting things happen to you, because whenever you trade that like okay whatever, you're just like giving up your power over whatever situation
Mhm.
out of like exhaustion or whatever the case is. And then whenever you let everything happen to you, it kind of just becomes more of an issue because you realize like, wait, I'm not happy with this or this doesn't satisfy me, and then like just letting things continue to happen to you because you gave up
Yeah,
whatever idea or vision that you had.
I hear you. And I was gonna say, I know you were only gonna talk for like 40 minutes. It has been like an hour, so I don't want to keep you on for too much longer. If you were planning on going,
Yeah, I do have to go soon.
I got you. Well, we can do a quick little outro and say, we hope you enjoyed. Kind of an abrupt ending, to be honest, but I want you to be able to get out of here and have a good day and all that stuff. So,
Appreciate the conversation.
oh,
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for inviting me on.
yeah,
I appreciate these conversations so much. You have no idea. I think it's important for us to continue to have them, and so I appreciate what you're doing in general.
yeah, and we can schedule another time. Just let me know when works for you. It might not be on a Saturday, but whenever works. So I'll go ahead and let you
Normally, it
know.
would be probably again.
Well, even if it's a Sunday, that works for me too. I just want to make sure I have
Oh,
a video out on Saturday every week.
I got you.
We appreciate you coming out just as much as you appreciate having yourself. So,
Okay. Bye.
goodbye. That was what is perspective. We kind of got a little bit off topic. We didn't like go and hone in on like the word perspective so much, but I do think this is gonna be another topic that I revisit. I think that all of these conversations I'm going to have to revisit because they're just so large. Like when it comes to perspective itself, there's so many different ways to understand it. Like there's the individual perspective, there's the collective perspective, there's like I said before, there's the empathetic perspective, and then there's the logical perspective and stuff like that. And we just kind of exist between all of these. So the conversation kind of just like drags itself like wherever we are within it, as long as there's no guidance. And then I think I'm gonna add some more guidance in like a second season kind of thing. So as of right now, it's more just like rough and rigid and things like that. And I think that in the future, I'm gonna have it to be a little bit more um, guided. So if you came out and you watched the stream, I very much appreciate you. If you're watching this as a YouTube video, I hope the same is true and you enjoyed. But anyways, I'm going to see you all in the next one. So leave a like if you made it this far. Leave a comment on what your definition of perspective is and things like that. And I'll see you guys in the next episode next week. So peace.
shit, cause I earned it. And everything I got, I deserve it. Wake up, thank God, and put the work in. Yeah, I don't play myself, I know my worth. Yeah.